Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today we're going to talk about Dungeons & Dragons, and we're specifically going to talk about a Taylor Swift session palette. Alright, now what is a session palette? A session palette is a specific thing within Dungeons & Dragons. It's when a dungeon master takes a specific real-world element, and then takes the components, the granular pieces of that real-world element, and then places them surreptitiously, secretly, salts them into the session to color the session palette-wise with that real-world element, okay? So for this one, we'll be doing a session palette using Taylor Swift. Her songs, specifically her appearances on late-night hosts, her movie appearances. So the things that are shining and brilliant in her life, we'll use those to color a specific session within Dungeons & Dragons. All right, now, so I'll go ahead, let me show you exactly how this is done, and then we'll talk a little bit about why you would do this, because there's some good reasons to do this. All right, so how do you color a Dungeons & Dragons session with Taylor Swift? All right, so one, again, this is you're not going to be overt about, these are, every single thing you do here is a clue to your players. And there's a good chance that one or two of your players are going to get it by the end of the game, and they might call it out. You can reward that. You can absolutely reward that. I would reward that with an item from uncommon to common. You would reward that with an item not common, from uncommon all the way up to from uncommon to rare, and then you also, so you can reward the player that actually gets that this was a Taylor Swift session palette, and then calls that out in the game. And then also, whether anyone recognizes it through the session or not, you should reward the player group, the party, with, again, an item from uncommon or a magic item. Again, both for the specific player and for the party. It should be a magic item of uncommon or rarity level. Okay? All right. So first of all, the way you're going to do it, the way you're going to use a Taylor Swift session palette is experience. So your characters are going to defeat creatures, and those creatures have specific experience points that are going to be given back to them, okay, based on their CR, right? Now, you are not going to give their traditional numbers. You're going to give different amounts for what they're getting back, right? And they're going to be shockingly different. They're going to be specifically Taylor Swift numbers, right? So if your party defeats a displacer beast, the experience, you would say, okay, the experience you receive for defeating that displacer beast is going to be 15 experience points. Your players are going to be, what? 15 experience points? That's not right. And you're going to say, well, that's the experience points that you got for defeating that displacer beast. Now, remember, that is well within your purview as a dungeon master. Gary Gygax gave a ton of authority to dungeon masters, and that is well within your purview to do that. Also, remember, you're going to be replacing that with you are going to be giving the party and an individual a uncommon or rare magic item. So there's going to be a bit of a swing in here. Now you want to do this sequentially, okay? So they defeat a displacer beast. They continue forward and they come across a nightmare. When they defeat the nightmare, you're going to give them 22 experience points. Exactly 22 experience points. Okay? And you're like, wait, what? All right? And you're going to say it. You're just going to keep moving, right? And you're not going to explain yourself. People are going to ask questions. They're going to complain, right? And you're going to be very aloof about it. And you're just going to keep moving on, right? Okay? So you have your displacer beast and your nightmare. Next, you're going to come across a lich. So they defeat a lich, and you're going to give 1,989 experience points. Okay, and you're going to say your experience points for defeating that lich are 1,989 experience points. And they're going to be like, what? That's not right, right? At this point, your players might start to get upset, and they might also start catching on. Now, you could do this one of two ways. You could make every single experience given in the game 1522 or 1,989. By the way, these are all, so 15 and 22 are song titles for Taylor Swift, and 1989 is an album title for Taylor Swift. So at this point, you're giving consistent clues to what is happening, right? And so again, one or two of your players might catch on. And one of the nice things about using Taylor Swift is they don't have to be Taylor Swift for them to catch on, right? You might have a player whose sister listens to Taylor Swift, or brother listens to Taylor Swift. A lot of people don't listen to Taylor Swift, but because Taylor Swift is so big, one of their siblings or one of their parents may listen to Taylor Swift, and they may be familiar with Taylor Swift's music just from proximity. So that's a good way to go. All right, other ways to highlight Taylor Swift in your session. So one, you're going to need to have a tabaxi. Now, a tabaxi would, of course, celebrate Taylor Swift's role in the movie Cats. Okay, so you'll have that there. Additionally, if they're in a town at any point, you can have a wagon carriage, which is essentially like a taxi through the town. And you want to have a pale, portly gentleman who looks a lot like James Corden, and all the people who are in the taxi that is strolling through town are singing along with the pale, portly person leading it. Now, this is a callback to when Taylor Swift was on James Corden's Carpool Karaoke, right? So that calls out that really fun appearance for Taylor Swift on that specific role. The one thing you don't, now there's some things, now I've told you things you want to do to call out Taylor Swift's work and paint your Taylor Swift session palette. Here's some things you don't want to do. Don't do the obvious. Don't make a tabaxi bard who sings Taylor Swift-like songs. You don't want to make it too on the nose. You want there to be some mystery around this session. Okay, now I've given you several ideas for creating your Taylor Swift session palette, okay? But you shouldn't stop there. One of the things you could do is you can just go on Google Play, you can go on YouTube, and Taylor Swift's music is incredibly accessible for free, which is great. And one of the reasons why is she's a global superstar, okay? So you could listen to her music, you could see almost her entire catalog for nothing, right? So, and so once you know that, right, one of the things you want to do is go in, and I've given you like 5 different points where you can paint your session as a Taylor Swift with the Taylor Swift session palette. One of the things you want to do at this point is make sure you go in and look at 3 songs or 1 album, and you want to bring out 1, 2, or 3 additional points and add those in. And those are going to be personal to you. I gave you some global, overall ideas. You can use those. But you also want to make ones that are personal to you. Songs that you enjoy or songs that you really dislike, one or the other. All right, now let's talk about why you would do this. Okay, what would be the point of this? There's a lot of reasons why you would use a Taylor Swift session palette for your Dungeons & Dragons game. All right, so one, you could be like me. You could be a huge Taylor Swift fan, and for you, it's a lot of fun. This would be a lot of fun for me because I'm a huge Taylor Swift fan. I think she's an incredible artist. I really like her work, and I think this is just a cool way to mix 2 things I really like, Taylor Swift and Dungeons & Dragons. 2, you may not like Taylor Swift at all. You should still absolutely do this as a Dungeon Master. Excuse me. Now, why would you do that? Well, there's a good chance that somebody at your table is a Taylor Swift fan. And the reason why is just reach. Taylor Swift is a huge artist, and there are a lot of Taylor Swift fans. Many of them make it very open that they are Taylor Swift fans. Many Taylor Swift fans don't make it open that they're Taylor Swift fans, but that doesn't mean they're not Taylor Swift fans. There are many Taylor Swift fans who are not open about being Taylor Swift fans. I'm an open Taylor Swift fan, but there are people who are not open about it. So there is a good chance that you have a Taylor Swift fan at your table, and this is a cool way to to reward one of them with something surprising and new. The other item is you're doing this surreptitiously. You're doing this secretly. Mysteries are fun. Mysteries are really fun. One of the biggest hits last year in movies was Knives Out. Knives Out was a return to the mystery genre, a modern return to the mystery genre. And mysteries are very classic, and mystery is an overlay that you can put over almost anything. And it's just a nice, cool addition that you can add to something that makes something a little cooler. So this is a way that you can use the meta of your Dungeons and Dragons game to add a little spice and something unique and something new, and it makes you a more interesting dungeon master, right? Excuse me. Everybody else is, running pre-gens or running their own world, and they're all dialed in just on fantasy. But this is a really interesting way where you can preserve fantasy, but you can put just enough modern day spice in it where it doesn't disrupt the fantasy flow, but there are real world hooks, and I think that's just a really great way to do it. The other thing is Taylor Swift is worthy of this overlay in that her career is so large, and she's had so many unique pieces in her music that there's a lot of different ways that you can. Her work is strong enough to withstand the weight of doing this in a Dungeons and Dragons campaign, which is a session within a session. So her work will really support this. Like I told you, hey, go look at her work and find 3 other hooks. Her work is so broad, so deep, and so exciting that and so compelling that I know you're going to be able to find other hooks. Whereas if I sent you to other artists, they don't have that depth, they don't have that body of work that Taylor Swift's material has, right? So that's another reason why you would consider doing one of these session palettes with Taylor Swift. Here's another one: power players. So power players can be a real problem. Often, Dungeons and Dragons parties, player groups will have power players, and power players can be a real pain in the butt. They can be very difficult to manage, very hard to deal with, and the reason for a whole lot of reasons, but often you can't get rid of them. And the reason why is they might be your best friend, they might be the best friend of somebody, one of your favorite players in the group. You might need them to round up to 3. It's hard to play Dungeons and Dragons with 2 people. You might need 3 players, and so you have this one power player at the table, right? These type of session palettes are very confusing to power players. Also, power players are highly unlikely to understand the clues, and it will send them off in weird directions and make them think in circular logic. And it's highly likely that they won't figure it out, which is great because it disrupts them, right? It's a great way to disrupt a power player. And the reality is the power player is going to be disrupting your game nonstop, right? It'd be good to put a beat in where you're disrupting the power player's disruption of your game. Right? So you got to throw back every now and then. A good dungeon master knows how to disrupt a power player. And I will tell you right now, there are a few things in this world that's going to be more disruptive to a power player than a surreptitious overlay of a Taylor Swift session palette. I guarantee you, power players ain't going to see that coming. They're not getting ready for that, right? Like that's not in their game prep, guaranteed, right? It's a J. Scott Garibay exclusive, all right? So that is the Taylor Swift session palette. I think it's really unique and really special. It's a great way to put some fun into your game, to make your game a little more innovative, to make your Dungeons & Dragons game a little more special and unique. All that is my opinion. I'd love to hear your opinion of this idea. And also, I'd love to hear your idea for other session palettes. Are there other artists you think's work would be strong enough, deep enough, creative enough, innovative enough to support a session palette? Let me know in the comments below. Please consider liking and subscribing, and have a wonderful millennium.